Hey, what's going on, guys? Got a video for you. No edits this time. I just don't have the time to edit. I'm getting ready for a pretty, I would say it's a major surgery. I'm getting back surgery tomorrow on my lower back, and I appreciate all the support. Last time I had C5 through 7 replaced, just dealing with major chronic pain, really as long as I could remember, and finally getting it addressed, and we'll be going into surgery. So I'll be off the radar just a little bit. Wanted to cover two topics before I fall off the radar. And one has to do with the shooting that took place in Winder, Georgia. There's a lot of information coming out now. One, we do know that the mother called a social worker or a guidance counselor the day of and tried to basically warn her of her son's issues 20 minutes prior. And then obviously they weren't able to stop the actual shooting. Some additional information also came out about the father. The father, when he was investigated with the son a year ago, remember the FBI did a very specific investigation into him based on online threats, including threats he made on Discord. Apparently, he was 13 at the time and admitted to some things, but said he wasn't making the threats because his account got hacked. Now, that's enough for the FBI to seemingly close the case. Also, at the same time they investigated, they asked the father if he had access to firearms, and he said no, because all of his firearms were locked up like a good dad would do. Except for Christmas, I believe, he bought his 14-year-old son an AR-15. Now, that doesn't shock me because I would buy my son the same. Not necessarily an AR-15 at 14 years old, but like a Ruger 1022. When I was a little kid, I used to read Brownell catalogs and build my Ruger 1022 the way I wanted, and my dad bought me one. I mean, that doesn't seem to be extraordinary that he bought him something. Obviously, the kid doesn't own it, but he said that. And he said that after the fact. And so that is what I think is what brought the charges of manslaughter, second-degree murder, and a multitude of other charges. Very serious and significant charges. Now, I posted about this, and this is nothing new because it's happened in the last several active shootings, especially involving kids, where the parents were charged. But I also think part of me goes, oh, is that the right thing? And a lot of you are torn on this as well, because the comments that I read from my post about it, a lot of you were like, well, he had the guns locked up. Yeah, he bought it for him for Christmas, but he seemed to be a responsible dad, and he should not be charged. But my thinking is just like, kind of like the Rittenhouse situation. I took that very serious from a person who teaches self-defense, who respects law enforcement and their job and their role, and also don't want to set these radical precedents across the country, because I know it's not only going to impact my clients, but it's also going to impact me. It's not just about impacting business. It's like me personally, my personal rights, my personal liberties will be affected by this potential precedent. And so I was all about that case. I actually talked to Rittenhouse's lawyers. I understood the case from the very origin, and we raised money for his legal defense. And that was obviously the right answer. Even if he lost, it would have been the right answer, because I knew all of the information, including the evidence against and for his own defense. And it was very clear to me that it was all self-defense, despite all the things you saw in the headlines. So I think the same way in this case. I go, my natural instinct is, the parent should be responsible for this, especially when it comes to a 14-year-old. Except the 14-year-old was charged as an adult. And then was there something very specific that the father did that made law enforcement or made the legal system charge him with such egregious crimes? And it must have been, but who knows? And if not, what's the legal precedent leaning forward? Meaning, why is it that a person in the inner city, let's say a young man, a kid, a juvenile in the inner city, which happens all the time, guys, like kids are killing other kids and adults all the time in Chicago, Baltimore, LA, the list goes on. And so the question would be, so if a kid, let's say he's 15 years old, winds up committing murder at a party and kills two kids, are their parents automatically now, should they be held accountable for that young man's actions? And then if not, what would be okay for you to charge them with a crime? Like, let's say if in this situation, there was a house party and then the father gave the kid a gun. Obviously, that would be a different case and circumstance. But what if the father in this case in Winter, Georgia, just gave it to him as like, I'm giving my son, but he's not technically giving it to him. And then he went into the gun safe and got it. I mean, that's something I guess a jury is going to figure out. But 24 hours after this happened, they immediately charged the father. And then part of me, because it's the same argument for self-defense as it is owning a gun and Second Amendment advocates, like it's not the tool, it's the person. So if we're following that standard, it's not the person or it's not the tool, it's the person, then no matter how the tool was exchanged, why would the father be responsible for something another person did, even if it was his own son? I mean, he was charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder, which I'm interested in as well. In fact, if you know, leave it in the comments below, because I'm not sure exactly why they did 4 counts of manslaughter. I can't remember if it was involuntary or not, but 2 counts of second-degree murder. It's obviously based on like the position of the people that were involved and so on and so forth. I just think it's very easy for us to go, yeah, that's what he deserves, or it doesn't matter, whatever. I'm not interested. We should understand the complexities of these legal, of this legal precedent in these cases, because they certainly might affect you. I mean, guys, I would have never thought in a million years I would be involved in the legal system, and then I was involved. And then, thank God, the legal system in the 4th District Court of Utah did their job. But if they didn't do their job, where would I be? Who the hell knows? So now I'm paying attention, and so should you, because any of this can happen to you. If you're a parent with a child, who knows what your child is capable of? Let me give an example. If a child is on their cell phone, let's say a 16-year-old is driving a vehicle, and they're on their cell phone texting with their friend, and they wind up killing somebody on the road, should you be responsible for that? Because you paid for the cell phone. You gave them the cell phone, and then you never disciplined them using the cell phone. Oh my, this is very different. It's very extreme. Or is it? Because, again, I'm asking the question, what is the legal standard? I know there's a lot of opinions on this. I'm not very conclusive in my thinking in this because I don't have all the information, but it concerns me. I want to know what your opinion is. Leave your opinion in the comments below. Also, I want to give you a little... one, I just got done filming. I have a Cleared Hot podcast shirt on, representing my buddy's podcast, Andy Stumpf. I just ended up in this really awesome position to be able to do a show with one of my best friends, Andy, called Focal Point. Now, Ironclad produces that show, so it's on Ironclad's YouTube channel, and I'll link it down below. We already have 3 episodes. It comes out weekly. Every week, there's an episode on current events. And the idea from that show is us telling you from our experiences about what we think about what's going on in the current event, and then you formulating your own opinion, instead of most corporate media basically telling you what to think or how to think. We just want to give you our perspective, and then you can think for yourself. And we want to be very clear and transparent. And also, we don't want to hold back. If it's something like just recently, Brazil completely canceled X from their social media platforms that are allowed in Brazil. That's a very significant First Amendment issue worldwide. It's the same thing the UK, Australia, Canada is doing, and making it seem like America is the only country interested in fighting for civil rights and liberties. So it's a very important topic that not only should you be informed in, but you should be involved in. So I'm very passionate about it. Andy Stump is very passionate about it, and I hope you guys check it out. That's a shameless plug for our show called Focal Point. Also, lastly, I just got done teaching a course this weekend called Shoot, Move, and Communicate. And the idea of this course is something that I've been pondering on for really, the last 20. I've taught law enforcement, I've taught self-defense really for 20 years, because when I was on active duty, I was teaching part-time for my own company, and then decided to do it full-time. And I've been doing that for now going on my 10th year anniversary of doing this full-time. And one of the things that we do tactically across the country is we teach self-defense on flat ranges. We teach you technical proficiency on flat ranges. We also formulate the fundamental or the principles taught on that flat range in the realm of self-defense, not sport shooting, but self-defense. So it's a little bit different in the nuances and the details and the way that we teach it. So one of the things I wanted to convey to you is, which occurred to me this weekend in teaching, was a lot of the ways that we train have to deal with building technical proficiency in movement, how we reload, how we get on target, how we apply fundamentals of marksmanship, frontside focus, follow through, trigger control. And that's great. We do that on a flat range, and we have many constraints that we train and operate under because of those flat ranges. For example, when you train on most ranges in America, you can't move on a range. And that is not a good way to train. So as long as you know that and you get to a place where you can move, then at least you understand that what you're doing on that range is building technical proficiency. How I draw my pistol, if you're allowed to draw, how I present certain fundamentals, and it's very technical. I want you to separate very technical things from the tactics, because those are two very different things. There are a lot of good people who teach both, and there are a lot of good experts who teach technical expertise, right? So if you train with us at Fieldcraft Survival, you do likely both a little bit. But it's very interesting to me that a lot of people don't recognize that the thing they do, the draw stroke, sub-second, inside the waistband on the steel target, isn't the full picture. Because if you're missing the tactics, then you're missing a huge component to how to survive a gunfight. And somebody on my Patreon, and I talk about this in detail on my Patreon, I'll link it down below. Somebody said, Mike, can you talk to us about evolving your training, especially since there are a lot of gangs, including Venezuelan gangs, we talk about that on Focal Point, that are overwhelming the country, and more crime is being conducted with groups of people instead of just a singleton. Instead of drawing the pistol and focused on one target, you should evolve your technical training and your tactics to be able to deal with the emerging threat, or technically the worst case scenario. You should always train for the worst case scenario. And so I started this Shoot, Move, Communicate course with those ideas or those questions in mind. I thought, 17-year-old Private Glover at Fort Benning, Georgia, learned about FM 7-8 and battle drills and how to shoot, move, communicate, how to bound and overwatch, how to flank and maneuver. And those tactics are very important, not only for like squad, team, platoon, and company size elements, but they're also important for individuals and you and your spouse, or you and your partner, or you and your mate. Because worst case scenario, you are maybe confronted in a more complex situation where it's not the mugger, in the gas station asking for your wallet, where you're practicing on a square, flat range on a paper target. What happens if the bad guys behind cover and concealment, let's say it's a vehicle and you're behind the same, how do you address that? Well, if you know the basics, like how to flank, how to maneuver, the principles of those individual movement tactics, like the basics that I learned, like I'm up, he sees me, I'm down, then you're going to be better prepared for the gunfight. And this could apply to self-defense in a gas station, in a home scenario, in a parking lot. The list goes on. Hell, in a rural environment in the wood line, like we train in Tabiona, Utah. So I want to put that out there. One, I'm not saying me specifically, I'm the end-all be-all solution to it, but I want you to evolve your tactics. If you're training with me in San Bernardino on the 28th and 29th, the end of this month, in San Bernardino, California at Route 66 range, we're not constrained. We can shoot, move, communicate, and we will. And I'm also going to evolve that course to focus our attention on multiple threats, multiple targets in a rapid engagement scenario. Because I think it's important to, one, evolve your individual training, but I think it's important for companies like Fieldcraft Survival to evolve our tactics and our techniques on how we train people. That's so important, especially as the world changes. I mean, things are a lot different than they were even a couple of years ago, okay? So I'm gonna be doing another shoot, move, and communicate with Greg Lappin. I'm also bringing a small unit tactics course to Tabiona, Utah at Skyrider Ranch as well. It's a beautiful place. I encourage people, if you sign up for that course, I think based on the recommendation from my students, this course, we're gonna have for the ability for you to show up a day prior, so we could do dinner the night before. We'll train all day, and then I'll give the option to students to stay an additional day because we were exhausted running and gunning all day, to stay an additional day and check out the next morning. So we'll make sure that we do that. We always want to evolve our training. Check it out at fieldcraftsurvival.com. Also, I'll be training on the 28th and 29th. If you haven't heard about it already, the 1-year anniversary of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at Fieldcraft Survival, thanks to Greg Lappin and his beautiful wife, Casey, is this Saturday, September 14th. I'll be showing up. I have back surgery, so I might just be limping around, but I'll be showing up and shaking your hand and saying thank you. But I'll link that down below as well because I want to see your happy faces there. I appreciate you guys. I'm off the surgery. Oh, actually, I'm off to the underground. I'm going to do an underground segment for Patreon, and then I'm off to surgery. I appreciate you guys. Till next time. Peace out, guys.